and co-founder of DLA Ignite. Today I've got with me Michael Cups, who is known as Cups, so we're going to call you that.
Yes, sir. That works for me.
And we're going to talk about your new book, which is called Time Bandits. And we're going to talk about how everybody listening or watching this can ultimately get back time and use it in more efficient, use your time and be more time efficient.
That's right.
Cups. So explain to people where they can find you in terms of if they want more information.
The best place is LinkedIn, of course. I'm on LinkedIn. I've got a profile there, and you can find me just with using Michael Cups as the name. We also have the book and some of the app in another LinkedIn called Coterie Solutions. And if you want to go to a website, the old way, www.coteriesolutions.com.
And where can we buy the book?
It's on Amazon. It's paperback and Kindle editions are on Amazon.
Excellent. I always ask that because people always come to me when they talk about my book. They say, "Where can I buy it?" And I go, "Amazon." Where do you buy all the other books? Anyway.
Yeah. Well, we launched it last Tuesday. So
fantastic.
And I think it's on Amazon UK and Amazon US.
So give me the inspiration behind why you wanted to write this book.
Sure. I've been in the software business for 30 years. I hate to say that 30 part, but a lot of years, and most of it's been focused on productivity and performance type software, BPM, RPA, robotics, all that stuff. And currently now in an operations WFM type role, where we help companies focus on productivity. So that's been a mindset of mine for a while. But I also have been managing teams, and it's been fascinating to me to sit down with whether it's reps or marketing people and say, what are you working on today? How are you doing it? How are you approaching it? And getting so many just very different approaches to it. And then with ActiveOps, I had an international team, which means we were separated by 6 to 8 hours, depending on where the team member was. Yep. And it became even more exasperated because who's working on what and who has the right priorities, right? So when you sit down and look at humans are fascinated with to-do lists, and when you sit down and look at them, it's fascinating to me that just how complex some of them are and how many times we rewrite the same thing over and over. So that was the motivation.
Yeah, I was at the barbecue the other weekend, and someone actually said that it was their birthday, and someone actually bought them a game which is about lists. We didn't play the game, thankfully, but and hi, Anna, thanks for tuning in. I understand that we need to kind of take control of our time because many of us waste time. I remember someone who worked for me who told me they had no time at all, and then when I went through their calendar, I would basically say, "So that meeting that you're in for 4 hours, why are you doing that?" Well, they may need to ask me a question. Yeah. Right. Well, you could sit outside, couldn't you, and do your work? And if they need to ask a question, they could open the door and they could ask you a question. Oh no, I need to sit in the meeting. Right. Okay.
Yeah. And that's the basis of the book. There's two aspects of it really, but the one that you're talking about is priorities, right? Yeah. Is that meeting a priority, or is something else on her list or his list a higher priority, and should they be working on that first? And that's and people they struggle with that. There's common time wasters, which we all know. Social media is one of them. Meetings is a big one these days, especially virtual meetings. That the pandemic enabled us to meet through virtual meetings in an easy way, but it's been a kind of a crutch afterwards because everybody wants to set up a meeting and wants to invite everybody. So those time wasters are things that we just need to figure out how to filter, right?
Yeah, I was once given some advice about, they said, do you ever know someone who comes up to you and says, so did you go to that meeting? And you go, yeah. And they say, well, what did you discuss? And you said, well, this, and this. And they said, oh, so you've just explained to me like a 2-hour meeting in 30 seconds. So they didn't need to get, so it's like, so why are you going to the meetings in the first place?
Yeah, exactly. And it's our schedules just get pounded with them all day. And anytime somebody sees an opening on your calendar, they may just grab it. So.
Yes. Yeah. So you break things down in the book, don't you? Saying that there's different types of things, and you actually need to give them different priority.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing I notice when I look at a to-do list typically is it maybe goes something like this: prepare that marketing report, update the spreadsheet, and then walk the dog, and then there's another work item, and it's mixed up in there. Or go for a run is a good example.
Yeah.
And so the first thing I say is you need to understand the task type that you're planning for. And that could be, many of them could be habits. And so if they are habits that you're trying to either build a new habit, break an old habit, or keep a habit, then move that to a habit tracker and not on a to-do list, because that is, social selling is a great example. I think if you build in something every day that says, I'm going to do comments for 20 minutes, I'm going to do connections for 20 minutes, and you build that in over time, that becomes just the way you operate. And that first 2 hours, you're doing kind of that business that you need to be doing. So habits move to a habit tracker. Tasks need to stay in your task list. But what we try to do is help you prioritize those using a concept called the Eisenhower matrix. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but the concept is,
I am, but could you explain it?
Yeah. So the concept is that you have a matrix of important and urgency. So if you think about 4 quadrants, one quadrant is things that are most important and things that are urgent. And those are the things you do now. There's things that are important but not urgent, and those are the things you schedule for later. And things that are important but are urgent but not important, you try to delegate those to either another person or a automation of some type. And if they're neither important or urgent, then stop doing it. So
there's a great comment here from Rob. Top performers who are trusted are often loaded with even more work rather than solving the issue of underperformance.
Yeah, it is, and it's an interesting thing. I think that's where you've got to do 2 things. You've got to understand the task type, so you know what the standard time is. What does it take to do certain things? And some things you may not know, so you need to give yourself a little more time. The other thing you need to do is the power to say no. So sometimes saying no is not just saying no, but it's a negotiation of what else has to drop, because you can't do it all. So you have to say, I've got these 10 things on my list. If you want me to add that, what do you want me to take off? And it's that negotiation that occurs.
Yeah. And Anna's been interviewed with on here before, so she's part of the Tim Talks special secret club. We have a special secret handshake by the way, which I'll share you at the end of that. I'm joking, but and Anna says, what do you think is the best way to convince people that thinking ideating is a valuable thing to schedule?
Yeah, well, I think it sometimes it depends on your role in the company you're with. But one of the concepts I put out in the book is we need to think about ourselves as a whole self. So you have the personal self, you have the work life, and you have an aspirational self. And so I think, Anna, the way that I would think about that is apply that same principle to your discussion, and saying if the company has aspirations to do and be other things, then you have to make time to think about that, and you have to dedicate time in order to think about those ideas, gestate those ideas, and get the ones that have value to market. So
I block out time in my calendar, and people thought it was strange that I put the word thinking time in it. They didn't think it was. I actually, so now I just have a common thing, which is prep.
Yeah.
And it means a number of things. So, before an important call like this, I have prep time, which partly is to block the time out so that no one, I'm not like running from a meeting to interviewing someone like yourself or Anna. Yeah. But that prep or that blocking out, I think, is critical.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And there's things that you need to have on your schedule. There's a work type that I call BAU, or business as usual work. And these are the things that you have to do every day. If you're a claims adjuster, you have to adjust claims. If you're a teacher, you have to plan for your course time. So put those on the schedule. And I think that's a great idea, Tim, putting yourself a little cushion on either side to either prep or regroup after something is a great way to preserve some of that time.
Yeah, because quite often sometimes you come out of a meeting and there's things you need to do, and I'm one of those people that like to do them and get them done and move on. Otherwise, quite often I forget about it. Yeah. So it's about I'm blocking out time to say. So for example, I take the recording from this and I put it on YouTube. I actually block out the time for the time that I need to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a great practice. Most people don't, and they mix their personal lives with that, and then they've got to go pick up kids, and they're in the car on the phone, and they're doing all kinds of things. So, my advice is to block that time and make sure it's balanced, between the personal and work life, and then you're in control of it. And that's the real key: is it get yourself in control of your priorities. So, what is important, what's urgent, and it may be picking up the kids at that time, and that's the most important and urgent thing you need to do, and that needs to be blocked out on your schedule.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that what we need to do is that we need to take the to-do list and actually form them into certain things like work things, personal things, aspirational things, and then was it the Eisenhower matrix, which is work out the priorities?
Yep. Yeah, that's the way to do it. And when we are building an app, there's always an app for it, right? And when you do that, the beta of it is really nice because you all go ahead and assign which list it is, and you can see all your tasks together in all three of those kind of buckets, or you can filter down and say just your work tasks. But yes, I would suggest you take your to-do list and first identify which are habits that you either want to build or stop. So stopping smoking or stopping drinking maybe is a habit you want to stop. So it should be on your habit tracker. So I guess there would be one other list that I would tell you about. It's that habit tracker, Tim, that people should think about to just track their daily attainment towards those goals. And then, like you said on the list, apply the principles of the Eisenhower matrix, which are importance and urgency. And it's going to help you filter out. You're all of a sudden going to see all the things that you can schedule later, or you should just get off your plate.
And some of that may be that you, as you say, you either say no or you delegate it but ultimately, there's only 24 hours in a day, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. And less than that if you're going to sleep, right?
Yeah. And also, we're in this situation where I think we've kind of moved back from where we were before COVID, where people are just giving us tasks.
Yeah.
And then we don't, we then get burnout or bad mental health.
Yeah.
And sometimes, as you said, you talked about going for a run. Maybe actually the best task you can do is going for a run.
Yeah.
Rather than doing a piece of work.
Right. And maybe without your phone and your headset, so people can't even bother you then, or you don't hear those alerts, right? You're focused on what you want to do. I think you're right. The pandemic was an awful thing that happened to us. But the interesting thing that it did is it focused on ourselves, because we used to, like you said, before that, people would just assign work to people and just expect them to go do it, work harder, work longer, whatever it was. Well, when work and your personal life came together and your kids are in your office, that changed the way we looked at ourselves. And it really is important to balance that. I think those three areas, work, personal, and aspirational. I think we always have to think about what our dreams are, what our goals are outside of just this immediate month or goal or year, et cetera.
Yeah, I think that, the mistake I make with to-do lists is I mix the things up. So there are, and of course, there's certain things you can cross off the list because you like doing them, and then other things you keep putting off.
Yes. Well, that's true. We'll go back to we only have 24 hours in the day. So pick an aspiration. The way that most people do it is they want to write a book, which was something that I undertook this year, which was a thing for me. So what's next? I think it's learn French for me. So
is it? Wow.
Yeah. My fiance is French. So
okay.
Yeah. So that
you can then, therefore, it's far easier for you to try it out, isn't it?
Well, yes, except she's a French teacher and she said she doesn't want another student. So I may have to go call one of her friends.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's that. So we've got these different lists and we're doing a different priority. What else can we do to help us actually manage our time?
Well, saying no is important, but the other thing is just get in a rhythm. I think a lot of times when you see some people are very diligent and they have a rhythm of rewriting their to-do list every day, which is very difficult. But if you put it in the matrix, a priority matrix, and then you want to think about it either the start of every day or the end of every evening. A daily rhythm is best. But if you can't do a daily rhythm, at least do a weekly rhythm and just look at your priorities, because things change. Urgency changes, importance changes. And so it's okay to move them around in the quadrants. But think about it, be mindful of it, and do it consistently. Otherwise, it's going to get lopsided as well.
Yeah. I guess it's you can move stuff around, and you've got to be honest in terms of which part of the quadrant you're putting it in, and you don't put things off that you don't want to do.
Yeah, exactly. Procrastination is one of the time wasters that I discuss in the book, but you're right. The other thing is that things do change. That just importance changes, urgency changes. Anna asked a great question about ideation earlier. Well, what if they come up with a great idea? Well, that may move some other things around, and that becomes more urgent now to work on that project. So it's okay if importance and urgency changes. That's actually maybe a good thing, because you're finding a variety of work to do.
Mm. Yeah, and I guess that you're in this situation where you at the end, you just need to work out what you need to do.
Yeah, you need to work out what you need to do. Plan for your business as usual work, of course, and plan for your business as usual home life, which are the commitments you have there. And then you need to figure out, the best thing you can do once you start tracking it through the priority matrix kind of methodology. You'll start understanding what a task looks like and what that means. It may be a 15-minute task, it may be a 2-hour task, but once you start doing it and you're kind of thinking about it, then you can know how to allocate your time accordingly. So you're not going to be perfect up front. You're going to move things around. You're going to feel bad that you missed something in the day. That's okay. Reprioritize and get after it the next day.
And there's nothing wrong in missing something.
Absolutely not. I mean, there's certain deadlines that maybe have different ramifications, but you shouldn't. It's not a black and white thing. There's always movement here. So.
And so what obviously you use the system yourself.
I do. Yeah.
And what changes have you seen in your own time management?
Well, the first change I saw is how much time I was spending on low important things.
Okay.
Right? Because it was the last thing that somebody called me about. They said, "Hey, I really need your help with this," and somehow it leapfrogged all my other important tasks. And so that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, it's okay not to work on everything today, and that's where that schedule, it's important, but it's not urgent. So make sure you schedule it accordingly, and like you do, put it on your calendar. It says time for working on task whatever. I think those things really is what opened my eyes to it. And it became kind of liberating, because then I didn't feel that pressure to get everything done today, because it wasn't one single list. It was, I know I have some things to do tomorrow, but I don't have to get to them until tomorrow. I'm going to work on these things that are in the do now quadrant.
Yeah, one of the things that I've started doing is I find to-do lists unless a to-do list is very, very quick, it just sits there.
Yeah.
And so what I generally do is I actually move my to-do list into the calendar.
Yeah.
And therefore I know that the task I need to, it'll come up, Tim, I need to do this, and then and I've allotted time to actually do that.
Yeah. The one thing, and I do talk about it a little bit in the book, is that we have a lot of systems. Email systems, Microsoft Outlook or Gmail are big ones. And what I found with that is they isolate, and we create silos. So we may have tasks in Outlook, and then we may have tasks in our project management system, whether it be Monday or Asana or something like that. And then all of a sudden we've got tasks everywhere. And the way that I describe it in the book is use the priority matrix as your middleware. So I used to sell middleware software years ago, and there were two important things about middleware. One was the map, and one was the protocol. And so if you can use that kind of middleware to say, here's the map to go turn left at that sign, and here's the protocol that is in that's work, or that's personal, or that's aspirational, then you've kind of got yourself a system to consolidate all those tasks.
Yeah, because I agree. You are in a situation where you may have a to-do list, but there may be things coming in on email that you're supposed to be doing. So so one of the things that I do is I say, right, I've allotted, this is email time, this is LinkedIn inbox time. Mm-hmm. And basically do that as tasks.
Yeah. One of the things the first version of the app, when it's out, it's not out yet, but when it's out, is going to be standalone. The next following versions, we're going to integrate email, because we think it's a great opportunity to, when you get an email, to say, is it urgent and important? And if it does, or either category, it'll assign it to the quadrant that's necessary. So.
Yeah, and Anna's made another great comment, which is the difference between importance and urgency is crucial.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
And I think we when I first moved into work, I didn't know the difference.
No,
you just
very
thought
few people do.
had a task at the top, and then you started working through them.
Yeah, exactly. And like like the example we used earlier, somebody, well, I'll say drop by your cubicle. Now it's drop by your Teams or whatever your system is, and say, hey, I really need your help with this. And all of a sudden, everything else just went down a notch.
Yeah.
So I think Anna's right. The importance and urgency, getting that right is crucial. And it's, once you start practicing it, it becomes pretty easy to understand that.
Cuts, thank you so much for coming on and
thank you
about your new book. So remind me, it's called Time Bandits, isn't it?
Yep. I've got props.
Right? Oh, yes, right.
So there it is. It's a very small book, as you can see, and I did that deliberately, so it didn't take up too much time to read it. Yep. And then we also are putting in front of the app, we're putting also a pad out there on Amazon. It'll be out there hopefully this week, where you can, it's just a notepad where you can just start practicing that on there. So that's another opportunity. You can do that yourself. You can draw that matrix yourself. And if anybody wants any help with it, please give me a shout, and I'm happy to walk you through it and talk through the benefits of it all.
And we can, and so in terms of getting hold of you're on LinkedIn, and the book's on Amazon.
Yep, the book's on Amazon, and the best place to reach me is LinkedIn. I'm also on Facebook and other channels you can find me on. There's not many with my name, but you might find a few others, but hopefully they'll find the right one.
Cuts, thank you so much for coming on and talking.
Thank you, Tim. It's always great to see you. Thank you.
Really appreciate it, and thank you, Anna and Rob, for all your insight and questions and points.
Yeah, I don't think we got to Rob's question, but I'm happy to answer that on LinkedIn.
Oh, do you wanna?
Yeah, I think the question was that top performers just get more work, and underperformers maybe don't get as much work. And I think that's where you get to that power of no, being able to know and negotiate your way around it. So hopefully that answers Rob's question.
Brilliant. Yeah. Thanks so much for today.